Thank you so very much. Good afternoon to everybody. Happy Wednesday to you, and welcome to the opening of the ABAFA Committee meeting, Operation Budget and Fiscal Affairs Committee. It is February the 16th, 2022, and we welcome you to this meeting. At this time, we will be calling the meeting to order 1.1. I would like to call the meeting to order, and by calling to meeting to order, I'm just first of all going to say that I am Belinda Queen. For all who don't know, I am the District 6 representative, and I am chair of the ABAFA Committee meeting. My vice chair is on here, and it is Vice Chair Mr. Harris. So Mr. Harris, you want to introduce yourself?
How you doing, everyone? My name is Kenneth Harris, board member representing District 7 here. Pleasure to be here tonight.
And we have other committee members on here from the Board of Education, other board members, and we want them to take this opportunity at this meeting to introduce themselves. We're going to do it a little different this time. So I know board member has introduced herself, but we have our Madam Chair on. Madam Chair, you want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining the committee this evening.
All right, and what other committee members we have that are present right now? Let's look and see. Do we have, okay, I see we have other board members on here. Let's have other board members to introduce themselves. Board member Mickey Murray, you gonna tell us who you are, who you represent?
Hi, I appreciate it, Chair Queen. My name is Judy Mickens Murray. I'm with the Policy and Governance Committee, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And next I see Ms. Adams Stafford.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shayla Adams Stafford, and I am the chair of the Academic Achievement Committee. Thank you for having me this evening.
You're welcome. And then I see one of our committee members, Ms. Boozer Struggle.
Hi, thank you, Chair Queen. Pamela Boozer Struther, District 3 Board of Education member and member of the committee.
And I'll see our other committee member down there. I don't see his face, but I do see that big D, Mr. Murray.
Good evening, Madam Chair. David Murray, School Board Member, District 1.
Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. And then I'll see our lovely staff, What would we do without each and every one of you? We're going to start off, no offense, you guys, but one of my favorites, Dr. Coleman. Introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Sharaska Coleman, Associate Superintendent for Supporting Services.
All right, and then we're going to start off with another favorite, another doctor, Dr. Fawcett.
Good evening, board members and general public. My name is Dr. Mark Fawcett. I'm the Chief Operating Officer.
Oh, you got to go get a lemon or something because you got to talk today. You're losing your voice there. Get it together. Go drink some tea. And when you come back, you're going to be ready.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the man who handles the money. What's going on?
Everyone, I say I'm not one of the favorites, but Mike Herbstman, Chief Financial Officer.
He is, y'all know he the favorite. He got the money. We just don't say that. Because he handles the money. And anybody know in your household, the person with the money is your favorite. We have a guest visitor here who's handling a lot of the development in our community, and especially I know is dealing with Walker Mill Middle School, which is one of my schools that's being built in the project. So what's going on, Mr. Washington? Introduce yourself.
Good evening, board members and general public. Jason Washington, Director of Alternative Infrastructure Planning and Development. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
And last but not least, the wonderful and the beautiful Miss Lisa. You want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Howell. I am the Budget Director.
Thank you for being here. So see, she deals with money too. So I'm going to thank you all for being here, being on screen, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. I just wanted to do something different than have us to introduce ourselves. I know we just normally get on and I introduce myself and say who I am, and I go right in. But this time, we wanted everybody to have the opportunity to introduce yourself so people can know who is on this meeting today and what each and every one of us do for the betterment of Prince George's County Public Schools and for our future, our scholars who are so important to Prince George's County, not just the schools, but to the county as a whole. So I want to thank each and every one of you for being here this evening and for playing an important part of making sure that we make the right decisions for Prince George's County as a whole, not just the school system, but for the communities and all. So this time we're gonna go to 1.2, an adoption of the February the 16th, household and February the 16th meeting. May I have a motion to approve the February the 16th, 2022 meeting agenda?
So moved,
Madam
Chair. Second.
Okay, thank you for the motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye. Okay, so the agenda, oh, I heard a little one say aye too, so the agenda is approved. We got an extra little vote on in here. We got a board member in training in the background, y'all. Okay, so moving to 1.3, can we get the approval of the January 19th, 2022 meeting minutes? May I have a motion to approve the January 19th, 2022 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you so very much. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we had 3 at least ayes. So the minutes have been approved because we only need 3 to pass. So at this time, we're going to go on something that's so very important and dear to my heart. I'm going to tell you guys, I was so excited earlier when I saw 15 people almost registered for public comment. I was telling my daughter, oh my God, I didn't know whether I should have just got happy and shout or just laugh, because when I see nobody is troubling to me, when I see no one comment on what's going on for our future generation, but to see 15 people sign up to speak public comments and who are concerned about Prince George's County Public Schools and the future, our future generation, and putting our kids first, it does my heart really great. So I'm excited about this part of the agenda, so we can hear from our community members, hear the great things that they want to say, the things they want to ask for, but not only that, so they can stand up and speak out about Prince George's County Public Schools as we make decisions to move forward, to making the school system move forward. So we're gonna start with our first speaker of the hour, Miss Theodore is the last name? And she's going to 12th grader, student, one of our scholars, who's going to speak on alternative high school on CBC.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we hear you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me at first. So as you heard, my name is Jordan Theodore, and I'm a senior at community-based classroom school. I just wanted to talk about how effective these alternative schools are for us, because honestly, if I was not here, I don't know where I would be. I just want to tell my story. So I used to go to Bladensburg High School, and I will honestly have to say that that school really changed me. It kept me from putting my full potential out there and using what I was born with, because I know I'm a person, and I know that I can do whatever I can to do if I just push myself out there. But that school never really helped me mentally expand. I just wanted to say that giving them I just want to tell them thank you, because if they didn't push me out and put me here, I don't know what would have happened, because honestly, this school has changed my perspective of education. I honestly didn't want to go to college because of the high school, but ever since I got here and what the teachers and the staff has honestly showed me, I just know that without this school, I would have been lost. And I beg, I plead with the board. I really just want you guys to understand the fact that there's so many kids like me out there who need this alternative high schools, and taking it away from them would just ruin everything. So please just understand us, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so very much for speaking out on behalf. It's nothing more precious than to hear from our students to speak, and we truly appreciate you. At this time, we're going to have Miss Gibson, another 12th grader at CBC on Saving CBC.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening to you all. My name is Symphony Gibson, and I'm here before you once more again, asking that you do not close community-based classroom. We need our school to remain for those who are not only looking for another chance to graduate, but for those who are looking for a real learning experience. And it saddens my heart to think about our 2-year students who will end up in a school that doesn't really care too much about their learning education. And our school is actually considered as one of the top 10 best schools. It would really break my heart to see those who are looking for a second chance not get their second chance. Yeah. Community-based classroom has done a lot for me. We actually just had a person from University of Maryland help us get our college stuff together. And you wouldn't normally find that in most schools like today. They have a good education system. The teachers, they sit down with the kids and they actually help them. Unlike in public school, you will just be sitting in class, not knowing what you're doing, probably messing around in the hallways like normal kids would. But at community-based classroom, they make sure you're in your classroom on time, getting your work done. They call you right on the spot. And if you're not there, then somehow you still end up getting your work. And you wouldn't normally get that in a public school. And that's why I'm so grateful for this school. It would mean a lot if y'all kept this school open. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. You appreciate it. You love and appreciate it, Ms. Gibson. I'd love to hear you guys' testimony for the two young ladies who have just spoken, who have spoke out on community-based school. At this time, we have another one, Ms. Pugh.
The next 3 speakers are not in our queue. If you could start at Ms. Whitworth.
Okay, so Ms. Pugh, Ms. Manley, and Shauna Johnson is not here. That was 11th grader and 2 12th graders at community-based schools who was going to speak on saving community-based schools. At this time, we're going to go with Ms. Winworth, who's going to speak on C-STEM project, Base Hands on Learning and Save CBC.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Peace and purpose. First, I would like to have a moment of silence for Alethea Wilkins, a teacher from Suitland High School, another teacher who will not receive the benefits of her labor due to her early calling from the Most High. Thank you. I must insist once again on a buyout. I want my emancipation and I want it with my full benefits. I've suffered enough as a classroom teacher and it looks like it won't be getting better. I have put in my time and I will continue to fight for students on all levels until the Most High decides that it's my time. And when he does, I pray I'm on a beach in Jamaica and not still working for Prince George's County. I'm here today to request funding for after-school programs like C-STEM. We need programs to serve the underserved and underrepresented using engaging and hands-on real-world projects to encourage entry into talent pipeline, inspire innovative thinking, bolster self-confidence, and foster a well-rounded mastery of areas of communication, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, not just for science-tech schools, but for those who are not enrolled. According to the STEM Education Coalition, exposure to formal and informal learning in STEM projects beginning at the early age and continuing through high school prepares our nation's students for the future ahead. I'm also requesting funding for teachers who have more emoluments offered for after-school programs. I'm requesting pay raises for funding for teachers who have invested years in the classroom to receive a salary of $100,000 plus for working and doing the work of a classroom teacher. I'm requesting for an additional locksmith in the county because it has been 5 years and I'm still waiting on my broken doors to be fixed and a key to my classroom. I'm requesting that we end busing to save money and every school should have a virtual option for students and teachers. I'm requesting for after-school buses for after-school programs. I would like to address some concerns based on the publication on the PGCPS main page. Have you seen the newest CEO chart? She has proposed to put 7 counselors at each of the 3 proposed alternative hubs. The instructional specialist is an assistant principal. I know, I used to be one. They are the same pay scale and very similar administrative duties. The social worker has an MSWC degree. The C is for clinical. The mental health clinician just has an MSW. They do the same thing. The behavioral specialist is also the same as the social worker and the mental health clinician. They all do counseling and therapy. The PPW is the same as a student advocate. Why do we need both? It's all fluff and lies. Closing CBC and Tall Oaks and adding 7 support services, counselor-like positions with very close duties and responsibilities across 3 hub sites. How do these positions differ? Instead of giving 21 for wraparound services up to 7 counselors in only 3 schools providing the same exact program. Keep the 5 schools open and spread the wraparound services. 7 counselor-like positions for a total of 21 positions across the 5 schools with options for different types of at-risk students and their circumstances. Bottom line, the 3 proposed hub schools do not need to have 21 counselors with the same duties and responsibilities. Spread these 21 counselor positions across the 5 alternative schools who have specialty missions from 9th grade to repeaters to vocational to non-grad dropouts.
Thank you.
For your time.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate your speech as always.
I try to.
Okay, at this time, we're gonna go ahead. Let's see, is Miss Sarah on? Another teacher? Who's gonna speak on CBSC?
Good evening. The word equity and equitable have been used in multiple documents sent to board members about alternative school redesign. The definition of the word equity is the quality of being fair and impartial. Please keep this definition in mind as I ask you the following questions. Is it equitable to claim the following research, school visits, and feedback from MSDE have been completed as far back as 2014 with additional input from staff and principals? Where's the research that should be provided to stakeholders, the public, and the schools? Is this equity when no staff at CBC was asked for input about a redesign plan to shut down their school? Is there equity in misleading the board and the public regarding the Maryland STAR rating system? Although we were all told that in order to remove the STAR system at alternative schools, that the schools must be reorganized, this is simply untrue. All 5 schools can remain intact, operating as programs and/or with coordinating supervisors versus principals. Is it equitable to provide documents to the board that are fluffed up for the sake of propaganda? Project-based learning is a massive undertaking that is more than doing projects. It is an interdisciplinary, unit-based, immersive experience for students that takes extensive PD, money, and support to implement with fidelity. Furthermore, the recent chart sent out with 8 different wraparound service positions essentially are just 3 jobs made to look like 8. Is there equity in the fact that CBC has run the most successful alternative school program in the county, but has been given a budget that is literally half of what other alternative schools have been given that serve the same 2 grades and the same approximate number of students? Is it equitable to pressure administration to not send students to alternative schools when their base school is increasing anxiety and inducing trauma? Does equity stand for sending those students back to the same base schools that caused the trauma, or giving them an online program they will fail or cheat their way through? Most importantly, board members, I implore you, is it equitable to shut down a school that students are crying out to save, a school that has one of the highest graduation attendance rates in the county? Let me end with this. There are multiple ways to fund all 5 schools with true equity. Stop unjust and overblown staffing and budgets at alternative schools that cannot justify those staffing needs. Put a stop to the boycott on alternative schools throughout our county to increase enrollment to what it was in 2015. Create the positions needed in each school that equate to creating 3 new positions total based on legitimate job descriptions, not propaganda. And finally, go to your Twitter accounts and review every last tweet and picture at Save CBC1 as you search your souls and ask yourself one final question. Are you on this board to serve the best interest of our students? If the answer is yes, the choice is clear. Save CBC. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And to both our teachers, you truly appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your service. If nobody have told you today, I'm going to tell you loved and appreciated. At this time, we have Mr. Carlos Walker.
Mr. Walker's not here, but if we could go back to one of our students is here now, Simone.
Okay, Miss Simone.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm here to talk about Edgenuity and saving CBC. I can't imagine having to take Edgenuity classes full time towards the diploma. I was one in 10,000 kids who did summer school this past summer on Edgenuity and failed. I hardly understood what was going on in the class, and even though they tried, the teachers were not much help because I only worked with them for an hour. Most of the work I had to do on my own. Watching boring online videos failed to keep my attention, which played a big part in why I failed the class. In addition, there's so much work every day on Edgenuity that I can barely keep up on my own. I'm not good at managing time, so I have to figure out how to work three hours a day on boring content I don't understand. The more I got behind, the more I felt like I couldn't catch up. When I came to Edgenuity, when I came to CBC, they really helped me a lot. And I felt like they cared about what they did, like their job, they cared about it. When I was at my old school, I didn't feel that way. So I'm asking, can you please save CBC and not let us go on Edgenuity full time? Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Sharon. You truly appreciate it. And thank you for taking time to testify. At this time, is Ms. Pope on?
Good evening, Subcommittee Chair Belinda Queen and other members of the committee, PGCPS staff. I'm going to hit on a couple of budget amendments that are coming up. One, the FY 2023 Alternative Schools Budget Amendment. It's beyond imperative that we keep our alternative high schools. You've heard before, you've heard nights before, you're going to hear after me. This amendment will keep all of the schools open and provide them with more support to include full-time assistant principal, mental health specialist, full-time social worker. So it is imperative that if you're putting children first, you will do everything to keep those schools open. The second subject, enhancement of the parent to professional programs. Supporting parents in becoming paraprofessionals opens a window of opportunity of what's minimally available. I firsthand know of a parent that became a substitute teacher, then she transitioned to a paraprofessional. She's now a counselor in a middle school and has been the main reason as to why many of the middle school students make it from that 8th grade to 9th grade and continue on throughout high school. We currently have over 37% of our students enrolled that are members of the Latinx community, and they're gravely underrepresented in as far as our paraprofessionals, as far as our paraprofessional and teaching positions. So enhancing that program is a very vital step in the right direction to diversifying the workforce development. Expansion of the restorative practices training in Prince George's County schools. Restorative practices is much more than minimizing school suspensions or dealing with behaviors. Restorative practices for not only students, but also adults promote self-regulation and teaches social skills, okay? Developing work and career-ready attitudes for students, minimizing distractions because it's all built on the cornerstone of improving relationships between human beings. So it is critical if we have community schools, one of the pillars of community schools is restorative justice practices. This training needs to be available in all Prince George's County public schools, and that budget amendment will do that. The other budget amendment I wanted to speak to, I have 10 seconds. Thank you, Aisha. The Office of Ombudsman person, that office, if every other county has this office will help save us a lot and keep things confidential and with integrity. So please take these budget amendments strongly into consideration. Thank you for your time. Thank you for my time. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Pope. We appreciate you as always. Thank you for coming out. The next person is Mr. Theodore Trice, former student testimony.
Mr. Trice is not in the queue, but Mr. Walker is here.
Okay, so we'll go back to Mr. Walker, Mr. Carlos Walker.
Hey, y'all doing? Sorry, I was late. I apologize. I thought it was at 6 o'clock. All right, and my name is Carlos Walker, and I am here based on the alternative programs. And me, as when I was growing up, I was in the alternative school because I got in trouble for doing certain things. But I understand what goes on in children's minds who are there. More than likely, they have an abandonment issue. They also are missing certain things in their lives. And because of these things, I had 2 parents. Most of these children who go there, they are lacking things. And because they're not getting it and they can't express themselves, they end up taking and acting out in regular schools. So they end up in alternative schools. If you remove alternative schools, what happened is these kids don't have nowhere to go. They're going to end up in prison or somewhere like that. Me, I still went to prison. I did 13 years in prison. I came home 2.5 years ago and my entire life changed. But I was able to get my diploma only because I was able to go into alternative school and I didn't miss a beat. Once I came out of alternative school, what I was able to do is the next year go back into regular school. If you remove that portion of that part, them children, they're left to pretty much guide themselves because their parents may not be there. Their parents may be on drugs. They may have anger issues because they're being picked on. You never know what a child going through. And it's important about teachers. Teachers are very important. If you don't have those teachers at those alternative schools that really care, they're not going to get it. Teachers at regular schools, if they're not pouring in, teachers are your most valuable thing at a school. Also, your guidance counselors, but your guidance counselors don't have their hands on. Your teachers, they do. And a good teacher should be able to look at each student and be able to feel their energy and tell whether or not their child is down, up, because you get to see these students every day. You get to feel their feeling and pick them up. If their child is acting out, you can send them to a guidance counselor. But this is why they are not being focused on, and they're ending up in these alternative schools. But when they get there, if you remove that portion, you're sending them to prison. I can guarantee you, or you're sending them to the streets to guide themselves, because who else is going to be there to get them straight? Now, me personally, what I'm offering, I will do whatever I'm not even from Maryland, but I will come and I will offer volunteer my time. Time is the most valuable thing that you can offer. I will give my time to help. Sorry about that. Did it end?
No problem. Your time is up. You can go ahead and get the last minute sentence in there if you would like.
All I want to say is, look, I will volunteer my time to help, to do whatever I need to help just keep the program going. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Much appreciated. Thank you for taking the time to come back to where you got your education at and speaking on how important it is. We truly appreciate it. That's it. Was Mr. Theodore Trice available?
No, Mr. Trice is not in the queue.
I feel like that's my neighbor when I hear his name called twice. Okay. At this time, is Hilda in? I want to say the last name wrong.
She said.
Yes, it's me. I'm here.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the Board of Education for the opportunity to share my testimony. My name is Hilda Cachi-Avilani, a proud parent of 3 students, 1 from Chilum Elementary School and 2 from Dr. Henry A. Weiss Junior High School. I'm now also a student advocate at High Point High School and a member of EROS Prince George's chapter. I support the following budget items proposed: the implementation of restorative practices in all Prince George's high schools with the highest suspension rate, and the parent-to-para program. And why? Because students are experiencing a great deal of difficulties such as social, emotional, economics, and that leads to academic failure. Implementing restorative circles instead of punishment will provide a safe space for students to express themselves and their needs and concerns, to encourage a safe environment in our schools, to ultimately promote learning. This is what we're trying to do here. Focusing on crisis prevention, for example, by providing them with these spaces where they can really achieve what they're looking for, which is learning. And I will say that we need to create this a restorative culture in our schools. We say we have it, but is it really happening? I can tell you, in my experience, it's not happening. Okay, so if we can bring this training to teachers, to have maybe a specialist, people who really specialize on doing the circles, and they can they can provide this, that will be what I think it will be great for the students and the overall for the teachers as well. And the parent to para, why? Because if you have a family, maybe a parent who doesn't have a job and can be educated to be a parent, that can be encouraging for the students to see their parent becoming a para and maybe getting more education, and the whole environment can be more productive. I'm a product of that. I was just a parent, and then I got so excited watching my kids and all the things that I can do in the school. I became an interpreter, and then I became a paraprofessional, and today I am a student advocate. And I can only see what I'm going in the future. So if we can give more people the opportunity, that would be wonderful. And thank you for the time.
Thank you so very much. I truly appreciate it, Ms. Hilda. At this time, is Mr. Kevin Harris available?
Mr. Harris isn't in the queue, and Christine Wilkin is not in the queue. Our next speaker would be after that.
Okay. Okay, then we'll have, you said Mr. Harris is not? Aisha?
No, ma'am. No,
Okay.
ma'am.
So at this time, we will have Ms. Wingfield.
Trying to unmute. Can you hear me?
I knew you were here, Ms. Tanya.
Hi, Miss Queen. Okay. Well, good evening. Now, I'm glad I was down on this line because I had a chance to listen to some of these testimonies. First, I want to commend the instructional and finance team. I know you had a very hard job trying to keep services in place with your budget constraints and keeping things at a level so it's servicing our kids. I did take some time to review the budget amendments or the recommendations. A couple things that are very confusing. There's not one fiscal note on there, so we don't even know what you're asking for. We are already going to deficit. So basically what you're asking the CEO to do is to write a check on an overdrawn account because there's no dollar values tagged onto any of these things that you're requesting. I just find that remember, these are our tax dollars. So I just find that very negligent for the board members that are proposing this. I don't see it doesn't appear to be a consensus of the board because I only see 3 board members that are putting these amendments forth. Ms. Ahmed, Ms. Stafford Adams, and I'm sorry, Ms. Adams Stafford. Please forgive me for mispronouncing your name. And Ms. Queen. And I still love you, Belinda, but I gotta just lay it and be honest. It's your duty to let us know the true picture when you're asking for something like this. We can't just write blank checks. And in this case, writing a check that will bounce because your account is overdrawn. I looked at the responses from the administration. It looks like they have done their best to accommodate what can be done. We are asking for a lot in this system. And this kind of leads into the problems of when we continue to pack into our school system the social ills of our community and then expect for the education system to solve them. That's why we have local governments. And that's what we need to start looking to. We can't pack everything into the school system. We don't have the money, and that this is a perfect example because now we are asking the CEO to write a check on an overdrawn account. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Wingfield. You're loved and appreciated also. I want to thank each and every speaker. Aisha, no one else came in, right? I want to thank each.
That's the end of the list.
Thank you so very much, each and every speaker, for taking the time and the opportunity to come out and speak to the ABAFA committee. What a time to speak right as we're in the middle of the budget. I think it's so important for everyone to stand up and speak out to help us to move forward the agenda, especially the budget agenda of Prince George's County Public Schools. So just know that you being here and you taking this opportunity was truly appreciated. So thank you to each and every one of you. Colleagues, please also note that there is also a video testimony submission from one of the constituents, Ms. Susie Clay, that can be viewed via a YouTube linked in the public comment portion of tonight's ABAFA committee meeting. So please take the opportunity to watch the video. This concludes the public comment portion of our meeting. Again, I thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. At this time, we're gonna move to 3.0, discussion and action items. 3.1, the budget moments, FY23 budget deficiencies by our CFO, Mr. Hersman.
Thank you, Ms. Queen. Good evening, everyone. Last week, we presented in depth the reasons for the current operating budget deficit and the CEO's recommendations for closing that deficit. Tonight, I'm just going to provide a very brief summary using the same presentation. In all, the budget deficit is currently $80.4 million. The first major cause of the operating budget deficit is the education effort adjustment. We believe that per state law, this state allocation should start for FY 2023. The governor's budget has it starting in FY 2024. So that is a $27 million difference for us next year. Second, our compensatory education state revenue is, we believe, artificially low. Does not represent the actual number of students meeting the income requirements. As we've discussed previously, during the pandemic, families were not required to complete eligibility forms for the children to receive free meals. And as a result of that, the number of eligible completed applications fell by 16,000 students, or about 21% over the last 2 years. We know that our actual number of students in poverty in Prince George's County has increased during the pandemic. We were hopeful that the state would use a multi-year average for their calculation, as they did for the foundation funding. However, they only used the most recent data, October 31st, 2021, as their count. And there is a partial hold harmless to the previous year. However, that year was already during the pandemic waiver, and our applications were down 11,000 students at that point. So based on the methodology used, they're not including 11,000 students, and our overall funding is down approximately $44 million as a result. In addition to the educational effort in Comp Ed, which account for nearly 90% of the overall differences, there are other places where we had similar discrepancies totaling about $8 million. So those are all the revenue differences in the current budget deficit. There is one area where we're recommending adding to the expenditure budget. Know that substitute teachers are critical to our school system. Right now, our rates are not as competitive as we would like in this area. The CEO's original budget proposal included an additional $2 million to increase substitute teacher salaries. With recent enhancements in other surrounding jurisdictions, we recognize that that's no longer enough. So we are proposing allocating an additional $4.1 million to make our compensation the highest of the districts shown in this presentation. So the three revenue adjustments and the additional funding for substitute teachers places our budget deficit at that $80.4 million level. So this slide outlines how we will close that budget gap. First, it is clear to us that the elimination of that educational effort adjustment was an error. And we are making the assumption here that this will be corrected by the state later in their budget process. If that's not the case, then we will have a significantly higher deficit that we'll have to reconcile in June. Second, administration has proposed $2 million in central office reductions for this budget cycle, on top of the deep centralized cuts over the last 3 years, including in the most recent proposed budget in December. Third, we have identified specific discretionary expenditures currently budgeted within the general funds that could be programmed or reprogrammed to the grants for FY 2023. Fourth, we will make an early payment on our other post-employment benefits liability contribution. Fifth, we will reduce the additional allocation for student-based budgeting originally included in the CEO's proposed budget. Our enrollment has decreased by 2.5% this year. Despite that decrease, the original proposal was to add 4.5% to the SBB allocations. However, as a result of this deficit, we'll have to temper that to only increase by 3% on the SBB allocations. And finally, the last area in the reconciliation is additional use of our general fund balance. Each year that we have a gap between our budgeted revenue and expenditures, we use general fund balance to eliminate that difference. Over the last 4 cycles, we have increased this use of fund balance from $28 million to $103 million. I do not believe that increasing beyond this point would be fiscally responsible. So to summarize, the $80.4 million budget deficit is comprised of the 3 changes to revenue and the increase to substitute teacher pay rates. This recommended reconciliation includes first, the assumption that the state will correct the educational effort adjustment, and also centralized reductions, budget reprogramming to restricted funds, early payment within the current fiscal year of our OPEB liability, school funding adjustments, and the additional use of fund balance. So those items fully reconcile the $80 million budget deficit. And thank you all for your attention, and I'll return the floor to Chair Queen.
Thank you so very much again. We appreciate you explaining the budget moment and our budget deficient for FY 2023. At this time, we will go into 3.2, discussion and development of the FY 2023 proposed operating budget recommendations to the full Board of Education. Just to let everyone know, I know you had heard in some of the testimonies, you can go online to review the budget recommendation. It should be on the board docs. Some of our board colleagues and the board members who have been appointed and elected to support you have made suggestions as it was stated, and these are suggestions that they feel is needed to make sure that Prince George's County Public Schools is doing everything they need to succeed. And so at this point, we're gonna go over and we're gonna discuss these and decide which ones are the ones that we need to recommend to the full board, whether we will need to recommend each and every one of them, or will some of them need to be recommended to the full board. And as stated by our last speaker, when we do have a budget deficient, and you just heard our CFO say that we will have a budget deficient this year. But as a person who does the household budget, we all know that we all say a certain amount of money and we tell everybody in the household, you know what, this is it. This is all I can do each this year. This is the budget deficient. But if, you know, if I'm person managing the money, to be honest with you guys, we got money somewhere we can take from, we can do. And that's when we necessarily, it's part of every household. And Prince George's County Public Schools, it's the same thing as part of every business. Sometimes money does have to be moved around to do other things, and we do it within our household, but it's making sure that we're moving the money around for the right reason and for the right purpose, and making sure that we're able to do that. And so that's what we're getting ready to discuss and go over now. We all do it. We do it in our households. We jiggle money around from our checking to our savings, or we take things this week. You know what? Nobody's going to be eating out. We're going to be taking lunch. We do things different, and it's no different for what we have to do as a board to manage the budget of Prince George's County Public School to make sure that we're giving all the needed service for our scholars. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and start looking at all of these recommendations that have been made, and we're going to take them one by one. Ms. Berkeley, how are we going to do them? Are we going to pull them up, or I'm just going to discuss them?
I can pull them up. That's fine.
Yeah, let's pull them up.
Yes, ma'am. 30 seconds.
Very much. We're gonna go ahead and pull them up because I do realize sometimes it's harder for people to go into board docs and understand and to pull certain things up. It's easier to log on to Zoom and let someone else do the talking and tell you, and I have no problem. I like talking, you guys. I think I was born to speak. Okay, here we go. Board action. Sometimes I gotta take my glasses off to see though. Okay. So this first one was a board action Sunday that was outlined, and it was presented by Shada board member Shayla Adams Stafford, and I did join in. She put me as Belinda Queen Howard. My husband would laugh at that name, Miss Belinda Queen Cunningham. That's okay. I was a Howard once before. But Miss Shayla Adams Stafford, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to go ahead and discuss this.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair Queen, for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all this evening, and thank you to the staff for being here as well. So the reason that I put forward this board action summary was because in my community, I have gotten a lot of calls and just I've had a lot of conversations with community members about really the need for more custodial staff within their school, particularly for schools that are overcrowded. And I know that I had an opportunity to attend the ABAFA meeting last month where it was discussed, and really I understood better the fact that we don't necessarily reallocate custodial staff based on the school population. And so I'm asking for the administration to add additional custodial staff, particularly to schools that have been over-enrolled. And I know that at this time there is a shortage of custodial staff in that you all have hired temporary workers to support in that gap. And so I'm just asking if we can create more full-time positions and really look at how can we support in the reallocation of that staff to schools that are really crying out for some more support around cleaning.
Thank you so very much for explaining that, and then I'll add on to it to why I co-signed on this bill. Anyone knows me know when I joined the board, one of the things is I walked each and every one of my schools, and I walk each and every one year. And there's nothing more important than the maintenance and the upkeep of our schools. One of the things is we see new houses and new schools even being built. But when I look at a lot of the historic, even if you look at our neighboring community, Washington, D.C., they may have built a couple of new houses, but a lot of their houses are historic. The brick is still there. They just took and refurbished and updated. And if we can keep our schools looking really well, floors shining. I even took the time to walk to my elementary school I went to 50 years ago, Columbia Park, and to see them floors still shining, lets me know that the maintenance person at Columbia Park Elementary School is doing a great job of upkeeping that school, because it still looks the same from when I went there, unfortunately, 50 years ago, but it's being kept up. And so I think maintenance is so important. But when I go in some of the newer schools and I see holes in the walls and the floor has stains in it, and when I see that some of the floors are not that clean, and when I see things that do need to be done and things are falling apart, it is a need. And then when you talk to some of the custodial and you find out that they don't have enough staff, that they do need help in getting something that done, I think it's so very important. And then when COVID came in and hit, which is really big, we realized the need of making sure that schools are cleaned a whole lot more, and understanding the cleaning process also changed. Maintenance staff don't do all the things that the maintenance used to do, but our custodial staff is very important to make sure that a lot more things that are needed to be done that can be done, and will help to make sure that our schools are clean and kept up to par. And believe it or not, if you can keep your schools clean and keep them well maintained, we may not have to keep rebuilding and repaying a lot more of these schools, because they're being taken care of. It's just like a car, and I'll break it down as simple as that. If I'm keeping my car clean, if I'm keeping it oil, if I'm doing everything that I need to do, I'm making sure the engine is being checked, the car will last longer. Well, the same thing will happen to our schools. It will last longer if it's well maintained and well taken care of. So in making sure that we have the correct amount of custodial staff is so very important, especially in schools that are overcrowded. We know we said it goes by the square footage of the school, but if a school is overcrowded, you got a little bit more dirt, a lot more going on. So we want to make sure that we have enough custodial to maintain these schools. So I believe that this is a good idea, but I do want to hear from the rest of the committee. What is your thoughts on it? It may not be a need with this for extra money, because we have a certain amount of custodials that are allotted per school already. It was stated earlier, we're short. We've been going outside for some reason to get custodials through other agencies. For some reason, we have not been able to hire them. I'm not sure why. Maybe Dr. Fawcett, you can talk to us about that. Why is it that we have outside people that we can't find our own to do this?
I can just speak to that. When we don't contract with any outside agency for cleaning services, when we talk about temporary employees, those are employees that are hired by us, Prince George's County Public Schools, on a temporary basis. What I hope to do is with all temporary employees is move them to permanent positions as soon as we can. So it's not an outside agency we go to. But as with some other positions in our school system right now, we're struggling to find permanent employees who are willing to continue employment with us in those areas. So HR, I cannot express how HR works to support us. But as you know, there's a shortage in a lot of areas. We have food service, we have bus drivers, we have custodians. So we do have vacant positions now. I know that we have sent in a response to you that the board will get very shortly in response to board member Sheila Adams Stafford, and we'll explain some more of those things in that document.
Okay, so that's something that we need to look at also. Is it worth as a board you putting this forth if we don't have positions already filled? Do we know how many vacancies we have across the board? Do we have that number?
Yes, I have that number. I believe that as of last week, or as of earlier this week, we had a total of 63.5 custodial vacancies. I think it's actually on the screen right above that we're looking at now in the bottom paragraph.
Okay, so as a committee, you guys, and I just want to be honest with you guys, we have to think as a committee. I believe is a needed thing, and I see your hand, Shayla, at staff. But if we short 63 already, not only we at 63, we're trying to get more, but even putting this in, we don't even have the 63. I don't even know if we're going to get to any more because we haven't been able to fill the 63. So, Ms. Adams Stanford, you want to add to that?
Yes, thank you for that information. I guess my question is, Dr. Fawcett, what do you feel is the biggest obstacle for us in hiring custodial staff and retaining them?
Well, I'd say with like a lot of labor positions at the beginning, a lot of times employees will come on board, but as soon as there is another position that they may be offered or they're out there shopping that pays more, they tend to leave. A lot of the these type of positions are very transient. I'll say again, if you're in a position and you're at the beginning stages, and I'm sorry, that's my computer. If you're at the beginning stages, of your career here, and something else comes along that's paying a little higher, they tend to leave. We struggle in this area. We have. Pre-pandemic, not having all those positions filled, but we continue to do our best to try to make sure that they're filled. A lot of our temporary employees who work with us, they may work full-time somewhere else and have the opportunity to work as temps for us at night. So that's why we bring on temps to help fill those gaps. I've said this before, certain employees must have a substitute. I believe I said this at our last meeting, board member Queen, is that like teachers, like bus drivers, if that person is not there that day, someone has to either pick up that work or someone has to substitute to do that work. So that's one of those positions where we struggle, but we continue to try to do our best.
Would it be a possibility if you could put together maybe a comparison of what we're offering in terms of pay for custodial staff in comparison to other districts?
Yeah, we could definitely do that. I believe HR may have that somewhere, so we'll provide that to the board as soon as possible. I know we've done that in other areas like bus drivers, so we'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so very much. And so in hearing that, I'm just going to be honest with you, I don't know your opinion, but as a person who has signed on for that, if we have 63 vacants asking for more, it just don't make sense. I just believe that we need to get filled what we have. I see a lot more things that we have on here that may be a lot more important than asking for more custodial when we don't even have the 63 vacancies. I mean, Ms. Adams Stafford, I'll leave that up to you, but we as a board, we do have to vote on it, but I don't know. I haven't heard from any of the other committee members. Mr. Hurst, Ms. Boozer Struggle, do y'all? No, nothing. Okay.
I'd be interested to see the comparison. So I was just listening in, but I'd be interested to see how it stacks up against others.
And I think that's something we may have to look at as a board as a whole. I'm gonna be honest with you, when we talk to that, I think we're digging a little deep where we need to look at that comparison with a lot of things, with our cafeteria worker, with our bus drivers, with our custodial, with our teachers. We have a shortage. We have a massive shortage. And I know we're here for the FY 2023 budget, but I think when we start looking at that as a board, then we really need to look at that to say, hey, is it an issue that we can't get these people to do that? And I think that's maybe something that we need to have Madam Chair to put on an agenda as a whole for us to sit back, or we can have them come to a BAFA committee meeting and we can just have a discussion on that. Because as you said, Vice Chair, I think it is a good idea for us to look at as a whole. What is it that will get in Prince George's County Public Schools that we will continue to make sure we're paying our workers well, but we will attract good people also, to make sure that when they come, they invest in and they want to stay with us. So that is a good thing to look into.
Yeah, because I can acknowledge that it's kind of a nationwide concern, but still having that comprehensive analysis will better position us to understand exactly what we're competing against. So well said, Madam Chair.
Thank you so very much. Ms. Shayla, you have your hands up, and I see Mr.
Yeah. I was going to say, I can withdraw this amendment while we await more information from Dr. Fawcett and his team regarding the analysis. And I think you mentioned there will be another report that you would be sending the board regarding sort of the landscape of the custodial staff. So that probably would be something that this committee could dive deeper into. So thank you for allowing me to ask those questions.
Mr. Herb, Ms. Smith.
Thank you. I did want to point out specifically that there are already 20 additional positions in addition to the 63.5 vacancies. There's already a request in the CEO's budget to add 20 positions. And I just also wanted to point out, as we talk about the salaries of employees, and I think it is important to benchmark against other surrounding jurisdictions, but did want to remind everyone that those are collectively bargained.
Thank you so very much for that reminder of collectively bargain. All I can do is smile on that, because I know things are collectively bargained, but we can bargain high. We can start off high. Okay, let's move on. Reach for the stars. Okay, so at this time, we're going to, as stated, board member Stafford is going to pull that, so we don't have to vote on that, you guys. Let's just move on to the next one. Is this, oh, okay, this is the next one. Okay, this is an outline. This is done by board member Rahila Ahmad and board member Shayla Adams Stafford also. Is Rahila on? I don't think so. So Ms. Stafford, you want to explain this one?
Yes. So this budget amendment came out of, really hearing from educators, and through my academic achievement committee, sort of listening to some of just the concerns around our ability to reduce teacher workload. Student support teams and student improvement teams meet weekly and they enter data, and often this falls on teachers who already have an intense amount of grading and work to do, and we amazingly have our own system for tracking, which I think is wonderful. That tracking system was developed in-house in PGCPS, and that allows us to keep track of academic and behavioral interventions to support students within a multi-tiered system of support. And so in order to improve the efficacy of this this feature, really, if we could have more technical assistance, especially in schools that are identified as high needs schools, to support educators, maybe by hiring additional staff to support with paid time entry, just providing staff with technical support to enter the appropriate information, and even more training. And so, yeah, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and just consider how we can support teachers in schools in this way.
Hey, did any of the other board members, the members of the ABAFA committee, or any visiting board members have any questions or concerns? So I have a question. So as it says, alternative school budget amendment. So it's a tracking system. So I'm just wondering, what does this have to do with the alternative school? Are we tracking all schools or just the alternative schools?
I think the title of this one may have gotten mixed up here, so that's my fault. I don't know if I sent over the most.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I'm sorry about that. So this was about
getting
technical assistance. Yeah, no, this is technical assistance for like our response to intervention.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, so that's supposed to be technically on the outside. It did that. Okay, so is this a system we're talking about adding, or a person? Because I'm not seeing.
No, sorry. So this would be, I think this is something that I'd love to hear from the administration on, really there could be paid time for data entry. So that could be paying an existing staff person to support with that. Or it could be someone that is hired, maybe a paraprofessional to support. I just know that I definitely empathize with the educators that have talked about their increased workload. Trying to host these school student support meetings during the day and rally the different groups together and try to figure out, okay, what was this student doing 6 weeks ago? Okay, are they still doing those behaviors now? Okay, what artifacts do you have to support that? It's a lot of small moving pieces, but it's very important because, when we track student interventions, we can determine, if the regular academic program is supportive enough for that student, if they need to advance to receive even more supports. And it's something that, all schools in America have to track how we provide interventions for students. And so this would help us do it even more efficiently. As I mentioned, we already have a program that's in existence. This is just the technical assistance that would help it to be done with even greater fidelity.
So Ms. Howard, can I ask and tune into your expertise on this matter right here, on this suggestion, because I'm just not sure, and I'm trying to, as the budget chair, to understand. I understand what Ms. Adams Stafford and Ms. Hamed is asking, but I'm just wondering, do we already have the employees, pay employees and staff a lot of money already, y'all? Do we already have the employees that will be able to do this, or where we'll be able to set it up, or is this some type of system that would need to do this? I'm just trying to figure out what is your expertise on that.
Well, if I'm understanding this correctly, it looks like we have a system in place, but we're looking for some additional support to help with inputting the information into it. So as the proposal is outlining here, there's a cost associated with being able to facilitate that.
Okay. So do we already have people who could, instead of, I see cost was added. So do we already have people who could do this without adding this into our budget? Would you know whether it's something that could already be done?
So I believe that the response to intervention has already been implemented. What this is suggesting is that in the administration response, the main focus of this is adding additional teacher time, 1 hour per month, and it outlines how many employees that would include. I believe it's for one teacher at each school, it looks like, which would be at a cost of about $1.4 million to perform that data entry. And there's also on here ongoing training for school staff, as well as it looks like a technical support position, and additional resources in that bottom section on like an intervention manual. Kind of reading this last section, but there's also materials that would go with this.
Okay, thank you. I got it now. So it's actually the pay the teacher, the overtime, in other words, to be able to have the time to be able to implement that and enter all the stuff in the system. I understand it that way a lot better. Because I was thinking a system was needed or a person, but okay, I got it. I get it. So does anybody else on the committee have any questions?
How would this impact our $75 million deficit that we have already?
So if this was fully implemented, it would increase our deficit by $1.68 million.
Okay. So as a committee, if no one else have any other questions, we know we have a deficit, and I do know we have a lot of other items to go through. I do think we have to decide as a committee whether this is more important for us to send through, or is it other things that we about to go through are more important. Sometimes we have to make decisions. Do we want to go to Red Lobster today, or are we just going to take the kids to Popeyes? Because we got to decide what is more important. So we're going to have to decide whether we're going to keep this and add it on and make a decision of saying, you know what, we're going to add this 1.6 million, but something else later on may have to be cut. Or we know coming down the line that we have other things that still we haven't even went through that are way more important than that, like CBC and so many other things that we want to put forth. Yes, I'm sorry, Ms. Board Member Adam Stafford.
Yeah, I would say it might be beneficial for us to go through all of the budget amendments and then perhaps come back to them if that might be useful. But I would say that, you know, I'm really thankful to the administration and the staff here today for coming back with this proposal. I think that, you know, passing something like this would make a huge difference when we talk about teacher workload and teacher burnout. And also, I think that I'm just so happy to see that proposal that came back. You know, I wanted to also mention that when you look at the proposal, it could possibly happen in phases. So perhaps this year there's support for the training and the after school stipend time for people to enter this information. And then perhaps next year is where the budget expands a bit to support having dedicated staff to this work. But I think this is a 100% step in the right direction to helping teachers do the very important work of tracking interventions in a way that is manageable. So I just want to thank you all for that proposal.
Thank you so very much. I'm Board Member Adam Stafford. Yes, Board Member Murray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Board Member Stafford, for bringing this forth. I just want to speak in favor of it briefly. This kind of work, I think Ms. Adam Stafford did a good job of bringing up kind of why it matters in terms of teacher workload, and all of those things are true. And I just also wanted to give some voice to the fact that ultimately it's the tracking of students progressing in their academic and behavioral growth. And so, you know, these things just don't always happen if they're not adequately funded and staffed. And so what that looks like is student data doesn't always get turned in. It doesn't always get tracked. Progress isn't made, and students ultimately don't learn and get the education, you know, that we all want for them. And so this isn't, you know, this is honestly like one of the highest priorities, you know, is tracking the growth of, you know, this is like this, our group of students who are already falling behind, right, in some category, but be it academic or social emotional. And this is the intervention system is created to make sure that they don't fall behind forever, that they do catch up. And so I just kind of wanted to speak in favor of it and thank the sponsors for bringing this amendment forward.
Thank you so very much for explaining that, especially, you know, to hear from a teacher who definitely understands, and I know you know the importance of it also as Ms. Adams Stafford, to make sure that our scholars don't get lost and fall behind. So we thank you so very much for that. Let's see. Okay, so enhancement of parent to professional paraprofessional program. Yes, Ms. Adam Stafford, it's you again.
All right, thank you so much. So I just want to start off by saying that Prince George's County has a really amazing paraprofessional program that really helps to usher lateral entry professionals, people coming from other industries, helps usher them into the teaching profession. They also have a great program that supports people that are transitioning from being a paraprofessional and supporting them with the necessary testing help and mentorship in order to become teachers. And so what I'm proposing here is that we expand that work to reach further down the pipeline to a community that could be an untapped human resource pool for us, which are parents. So when we look at the amount of teaching staff that are Latinx, the numbers are very, very low. So we have about 4.6% of our teaching staff as identifying as Latinx. However, in our district, we know that our fastest growing group is our Latinx population. And I don't want to say our fastest growing group, but one of our largest groups, is our Latinx population. We've talked a lot this year about the need for cultural responsiveness and building a culturally responsive school system. And that requires us to have staff that mirror our student population. And so one way to do that would be to create a pipeline for families and members of this community and other communities that are multilingual to become professionals within our school system. And so a parent to paraprofessional sort of bridge or program or just an expansion would allocate resources to essentially create awareness within communities to help with the application process, to support in a cohort model to help people pass that paraprofessional assessment, to help them navigate where they can take courses to, advance within their career. But it's a really important bridge that right now doesn't exist. And so the reason I bring this forward is because I've seen the success of this program in school districts across the country. And in fact, President Biden has created a grow your own initiative as part of some of the bills that he has put forward, because he recognizes that a lot of the talent that we need in school systems is right here in the community. Many schools in my district are community schools, and folks have reached out saying that they don't have enough staff that can communicate with their non-English speakers, and that's really important to have someone, even if there is a parent educator already on staff, someone that is working in the academic sense, maybe alongside the science teacher or alongside the math teacher throughout the day to support students and families, and that's what paraprofessionals do. So I think that, I think that the price point that's put on here, certainly, this can be changed. It can be a starting point, or it can be a ceiling, or however it works. I mean, I think that the administration can better say how much could be allocated or shifted to support this. But, the concept here is that, the school system could partner with organizations that might be able to provide some of these services already, resume writing, interview skills, in helping for us to diversify the pool of applicants. So that's really the impetus behind this budget amendment.
Thank you so very much. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns while we talking about this budget amendment? Any comments? I want to thank Ms. Adams Stanford for explaining this to me earlier when I did have a little question or concerns. And just to say, I do understand the importance of it. I was at an event over the weekend on last Friday, and at another school, which is not a public school, that's being brought to Fairview right here in Maryland, that's going to be built there. And one of the students that go to the school in this area, and when she did her testimony, she was a public school student here in Prince George's County. And it brought me back to the understanding of what Ms. Adams Stafford just said she was struggling and she was having issues. And when she would go and ask for help, she said, people would say, oh, you can do it or you can get it, but she couldn't get it. But she said, and she was a foreigner, and she said, but they always wanted me to translate. Or when someone couldn't understand, they want to use me to translate. But when I needed help, they wasn't giving me help, but they wanted me to help them. And that hurt my heart to hear a child, a scholar say that we used her for what we needed. But when she needed us, we wasn't there. So we really need to think about that. So, it brought me back to the reason this is so much needed to make sure that we're being diverse across our school system. So thank you so very much. The next one.
Is the administration going to comment on any of these?
I'd ask it, anybody.
So for most of these, we've already provided written comment on them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this one again, board member staff, this is expansion of restorative practice training in Prince George's County Public Schools.
Yes, so I wanted to thank the administration for sharing what we're doing currently with restorative practices. We already have many schools that are restorative practice schools, and that number is growing. And for those members of the public that may not know about restorative practices, these are ways to build community and to use less punitive practices in our discipline. And as we know, this year, coming back from the COVID disruption, really a lot of students faced a lot of behavioral issues returning to school. And so having schools that center on restorative practices can really help to begin that process of healing and community building and alternative disciplinary methods. So this budget amendment was really coming from just community outreach from different coalitions and community members just around the need for the trainings to be more comprehensive and not take place in the evenings or during the weekends, because that made it difficult for educators to attend and made it difficult for folks to really buy into the program. And so, I guess my question for the administration would be, I saw sort of the explanation of the expansion of the program, but I wanted to know, will the funding that's used for the training and the stipends that were mentioned, will that be used to procure like substitutes or stipends so that educators can attend these trainings during the day?
So I know I wasn't involved in writing this response, but I do see that they provided, as you said, the 5-year expansion plan, and they do specifically say that the staff who attend would receive workshop pay. And of course, we would also fund the substitutes if they are going to miss any time, but I can't say specifically how they intend to implement this, whether it's within a regular day or outside of work hours.
I think that would be just a core question that I have, because I think the general sentiment is that people want to continue to expand the program, but the training component of it, because it is so different than the way a traditional school operates, people really want to have strong training, and so having the sessions after school, it makes it very difficult for educators to attend.
We could get that answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so very much. Any other questions from any other board members or concerns? If not, we'll move right along. We still have the floor, board member Adam Stafford.
Okay. So this, yes. Okay, yeah. So this budget amendment is really for us to revitalize the role of the ombudsperson, the office of the ombudsperson, that would make us consistent with board policy 1600. And I put in here some information around the role that an ombudsperson plays within a school district, and generally their role would be to really serve as a neutral, confidential party that would gather information and complaints from all different stakeholders, and then provide the Board of Education with systemic level analysis and data about how we can, use our duties to try to solve some of those issues. I think that that's a core function of our job role, is to provide systemic level oversight. And a ombudsperson, that's the type of information they would give us. For example, they may say, oh, seems like a lot of complaints are coming from this area of the county on transportation. So this may be an area that the board may want to learn more about within their committee. They may want to consider a policy around this. Or they may say, there are a lot of issues around this particular program. You may want to consider a budget priority in the upcoming year to support this or to fund this. But it's very difficult, I have found, as a board member, to create budget priorities when we don't really have a comprehensive understanding at a systemic level of where the needs or the gaps are. So our budget priorities are really just coming from what we get from community members, but not really looking at actual data. Another thing, the reason why I feel like we should have a ombudsperson's office is because an ombudsperson can actually save the district money in the long run. They resolve conflicts. They help to resolve conflicts in a non-litigious way. They can bring together different parties and help people find solutions instead of just going straight to a lawsuit. So that's what different school districts use an ombudsperson for, to help with problem solving. And then, I just want to note that we are, the only school district regionally that I put, there's a list there of the different school districts or comparable school districts, and they each have an office of the ombudsman, because I think that it's just a best practice for a school district of our size to have this mechanism for people to voice concerns and impact policy. So that's the impetus behind this amendment.
Thank you so very much. Do anyone have any questions or concerns? I'm not sure if you guys read the CEO's statement, but I do want to say that when I came on the board, and I remember this so blankly, when I came on the board in December of 2018, I was on the budget committee, and the first thing I noticed about the budget is we had an ombudsman office in the board office, and it was $1 million sitting there, but we didn't have nobody in the FTE. And I questioned that. And so we did end up moving, and I believe the CEO moved it from the board. So, but this look like you're talking about an ombudsman that is under Prince George's County Public Schools, not the Board of Education. And I'm not correct on this one. So this would be like a different position. But as I read what Dr. Golson's reason for moving it, as she did say, the former chief executive officer, Dr. Maxwell, had it, but she didn't find the need for it, and she decided to take the money and put it more so into services for the school system. I hear your need, what you're saying, we have a need for it, but I just want to ask you and any of the other board members, and I'm more for this, since you're putting it forth, Michelle Adams Stafford, is that, do you find this is more of a need to have this to help the school system right now when the budget is deficient, or is it something that maybe that we can wait on later on? So you're the expertise in this, so I'm not questioning whether there's a need. I just want to know, do you find it more of a need now for us?
I definitely think that it's a need now. I think this is a preemptive strategy, because an ombudsperson, they would provide the board with quarterly reports so that we can know what's happening in the school system. I just don't understand how as a board we could set our own priorities of like what we're going to focus on, or if we don't have data in this way. And I think that that's what an ombudsperson can help us develop. And so, yeah, I think that it can be a preventative measure in a few different ways.
Okay, and so we all read through what they said had happened prior, that constituents were complaining that they had to wait for it to come through the ombudsman to come to the board. Do we not think that that may be a problem again with bringing it back within a couple of years? I mean, I'm not questioning a good idea. I'm just wondering if maybe we should have took this out to our constituents to see how important they thought this would be, more so than us as a board. Did we think about?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay, okay.
I'll say, I mean, and I see my colleague's hand up as well. I'll say this. I think that, this is like a best practice, like for a school district of our size. And if there were issues before, I think that it could, in the description of what their roles and responsibilities are, we as the board would say, okay, this month you need to provide this report, or we would have to set the parameters for the work that they would do. But I think that there could also be some time built in here for us to study what other school districts that are comparable to us are doing, and how they're leveraging an office of the ombudsperson to resolve conflict, but then also to provide this level of information to their board. So.
Thank you so very much. I'm sorry, board member Boozer.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I was one of the parents in 2015 at this time that found this office not helpful at all in its construct, and in fact added to frustration. And I found that the changes that the board office made, along with Dr. Goldson, for being able to respond quickly to parents, students, and others who needed assistance, has been much better under the way Dr. Goldson is managing this in the area office. She established the resolution specialists who help in particular, more difficult situations. I relied on them as a board member and found the work successful. There are tracking mechanisms. There is a request for help in database. The board was maintaining a tracking sheet with our own staff, funded staff. There's ways to achieve, I think we're already funding the staff and mechanisms to achieve the goals that you're seeking. And I think putting a spotlight back on all of that is really what's needed. We talked about it a lot more before the incredible disruptions of COVID and the crisis that we've been in. So I certainly would support looking at all of this. I am not supporting budget amendments for the second year in a row due to this $80 billion deficit. But I do want to support the goals of what you put forward. Thank you, Chair.
One thing I'll say, Ms. Queen, is that, it could be a situation where, possibly we could explore this in a different way, in which maybe we could, try to see what in the resolution centers could support some of the same initiatives here. And then I think Board Member Strother, we talked about this being a budget priority for the following year, to see how what we have is comparable to what the goals are of this amendment. And maybe it can become a priority to consolidate some of what is happening in the area offices so that it's more palatable for board members.
I agree. And I'm sure board member, the vice chair is on here, he's listening, so he definitely know things that we may need to start working on ahead of time and bringing back forth. I know I'm having a discussion with another board member, Mika Murray earlier. We wait till the last minute to bring these budget amendments. I just think it's something that maybe when we have our 3 work sessions, that one of our work sessions should be just set aside for us to have budget amendments brought ahead at that work session and give us this time, just like we have now, to work them budget amendments out at a work session so we can talk about it and we can work it out as a board. And it's done way ahead of time before it comes to this ABAFA committee meeting. And we got to vote on something tonight, which is going to go to the full board. So I think if we look at this as a board and maybe put this on our retreat. I know board member Meekins Murray is going to be working on a retreat as one of the items to do, because board members are going to come with suggestions and changes for a budget. And I know staff is going to bring forth the best budget that they have. I know our CFO has been doing a great job, but it's also things that we know we've heard from our constituents, from our scholars, from the community, or the people who actually we know that we actually are here for. So we just want to make sure that we are actually representing everyone who has what they say an impact on Prince George's County Public School, all of our stakeholders. That was the word I was looking for, stakeholders, each and every one. So we won't leave anyone out. So all of our stakeholders in Prince George's County Public Schools. So that's why a lot of these budget amendments are coming forth at the last moment, because we're trying to represent each and every one of our stakeholders. But some of these things we may have to put off and work on so we can bring forth in the next year. So again, we thank you so very much again for bringing so many awesome things to us and letting us know things that we need to start looking at now, looking forth before the next year come. We truly appreciate you, Board Member Adams.
Thank you. And I wanted to mention that I do also agree with you that the calendar should be amended for budget amendments to begin coming in maybe as early as November. I think that my understanding of the process, I was given the date as being, February 10th, I believe. And so, if we want more time for folks to engage with these amendments, I think we should push that date maybe back to December. And then that will give both groups time to really talk about things and flesh things out for sure. I think I had one more amendment, which was the alternative schools. I don't know if we discussed that one.
I'm getting ready to pull it up right now.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
There we go.
Okay. So, all right, let's see here. Yeah, so I just wanted to state that, I think that this discussion about alternative schools is certainly worth more thought, because thousands of students would benefit from this work. But as a board, we haven't really received student achievement data on the impact of COVID on student achievement outside of our own research and anecdotal evidence. And what I mean is like very specific, detailed information regarding student failures and different demographic groups and that level of data. I'm quite positive, and many of my colleagues would agree, that that would reveal that many students would benefit from the work that our alternative schools and programs provide, especially the community-based classroom. But we do have quantitative and qualitative evidence about the effectiveness of the program that exists at CBC and its ability to meet a critical systemic need, which is the improvement of our graduation rates. It's really not fair or equitable, in my opinion, to abruptly close this school community without a compelling reason to, or really a plan to address that underlying need. And so I think that the expertise and the staff at these schools really should be elevated and studied to determine how we can replicate the success of this work throughout our district. And so, my recommendation here would be to keep all of the schools open and remain intact and whole, and to provide them with at least one of these three positions. And I believe that the 7 social work positions that were recommended in the budget, I mean, they could certainly be allocated to these schools as well to maintain them intact. So I also would like to ask, if the administration could prepare a comprehensive plan, and that may not be for this particular meeting for us to discuss, but really how this really has brought to light, this whole discussion has brought to light, how can we as a district address the specific needs of juniors and seniors that are off track for graduation. As we have seen, the CBC has been successful at solving that challenge. So I think that there are just a lot of questions that are unanswered in terms of the responses that we received in the frequently asked questions to this amendment. And I'll just read off a few of those questions, and if we can get some of those answers, that would be helpful. But, for example, I have some questions around, what is the criteria for determining whether a student is admitted into this program? Basically, how will, in the new model, how will you provide small instructional settings and coaching? That's one of the main components that students and staff have mentioned. It says that that students will receive academic support from a content area educator, but it doesn't say if this will be in like a small group setting, which is really what we've seen in all of the testimony. I'm not clear in this document how flexible scheduling will work. It doesn't say that students will be able to maintain a work schedule, which has been another core component of the success. It talks about leveraging Edgenuity, and I can say, as a teacher of Edgenuity, I think one of the biggest challenges with Edgenuity is the fact that you have to have a very high literacy level to engage with Edgenuity on your own asynchronously. For many students that find themselves in a situation where they are trying to take a course on Edgenuity, many of them are, quite frankly, several grade levels behind. And so having this course that's asynchronous, that requires, as you heard from students, just an immense, a high reading level, and in many other factors, it proves to be very challenging. And so I'm not clear on what data was used, like what data is demonstrating that Edgenuity has had a successful impact on helping students graduate in this county. What data was used to determine that the model that is existing now is untenable for the future? And so, this is why I'm putting this forward. And I last year I put forward a budget amendment with the TAWS program, which sought to reclaim students that were on the verge of dropping out, to provide them with that one-on-one and wraparound support and coaching so that they could graduate. And we were told then to look to examples like CBC and other programs that were doing this well within our district. And so why are we changing it now? And so my thoughts are, not only do we want to keep these schools intact, but I think that we need to think seriously about how can we leverage the institutional knowledge and success of this program to expand it to the so many students that have been impacted by COVID and could benefit from something similar to this. And I think that this is an issue that deserves a lot more attention and study and, quite frankly, data in order for us to make a decision. So I'm asking for everyone's support on this amendment.
Thank you so very much. And I want to say to my vice chair, if I go out, it's because my internet keeps saying unstable. So you may have to take over because it's like, where's everybody going? And then I realized it's my internet, and it's done it 3 times so far. Thank you so very much. Okay, so does anyone else have any questions or concerns or comments when it comes to CBC? I mean, we've heard so many of our scholars, our teachers, and our community members speak on that. I don't have any concerns. I don't want to make the same mistake the county made with redistricting, for sure. But does anyone else have any questions or concerns? Okay, let's moving forward to the next one.
All right, I'm pulling it up now.
Oh, this is me. Okay, so this was the budget amendment. When we were having a lot of when we were actually in person and some online, a lot of our board meetings, I would hear the teachers talk about the social emotional stress and how they didn't have time. And it brought me back to, I remember when we had lunch and recess monitors. I remember a lot of the community members. It was something a lot of our seniors would do, people who were retired, and they would actually monitor the students while they were at lunch and recess. And it would give our teachers a break. It gave them, a mental health break. It gave them time to do other things like what board member Adam Stafford mentioned earlier, time to key in things that they could have a time to key in, because we had other staff doing this. And I do know earlier was brought to the attention by Ms. Wingfield that I didn't put a dollar amount on it because I really don't even know what the dollar amount was. But I do know that we did have this at one time. I really want to bring this forward, but I know it's not important at this point in time because we do have a deficiency. But I do want to say to our CFO, as I always say, Mr. Michael, is that maybe we can find some grant money. It's coming out, some grant money where we can bring some partnerships in that we can have some of the community members to come in and relieve, even through volunteer, some program where they can come in and relieve our staff during lunch and recess. I think this was so very helpful. I remember it was a lot of relief for our teachers and even for our principals, because I see at some schools, even when I'm going to, I see my principals rushing to go to lunch duty. and I know they have to do what they have to do, and we all have to do what I have to do. But I just feel like if we went back to lunch and recess monitor, it will lift some of the social, emotional, and mental stress that is affecting our staff. And that's every part of our staff, to be honest with you guys. It would give them a lot of help, more help. It would even help the custodials when it's time to clean up in the cafeteria, because they were very helpful with that, making sure the trays were dumped. Even if it was just mostly for our elementary school kids. But as I did state, I will be pulling this back. Maybe we can look at it when we do get some more money, but I think it is something that we do need to look at, trying to relieve our staff, having some type of help during lunch and recess, so they will have more personal time and more time to do things that they can use to grade, or just like what Ms. Adam Stafford brought up, where they can key in different things that need to be keyed in systems for our scholars. So thank you so very much. So we're gonna pull that one back. We don't have to worry about vote. Board Member Booz.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Queen. I definitely appreciate your thinking on this, and had been also thinking about it from the volunteer perspective and the re-engagement of parents, and probably particularly elementary in this case, being the the match for lunchroom monitoring. I know for years that was a very popular role for parents to have engagement in the building. And we have so few, we began to have so few before COVID restrictions. And as we reemerge from this pandemic and bring parents back in, I certainly been thinking about exactly what you're describing here of going back to the basics of how parents were part of the school community during the day. So I appreciate this and definitely want to keep talking about how we can meet multiple goals through helping teachers by relieving them with parent volunteers.
Thank you so very much. And I agree with you so very much. When we had a town hall yesterday on safe steps in our school, and how this in itself will bring back safe steps within our school, to have community members, to have parents, the people who know the children in the school, to say, boy, little boy, don't you know, I'm going to tell your parent, your dad and mom, you know, they don't play that. We don't realize how much of a difference it will make. So I definitely think it's so important to have community stakeholders involved and right in the schools so they can see what's going on. Because it still takes the village, you guys. I always say they still take the village. To have Miss Nancy and Miss Sue in that school system telling your parents what's going on, you know you're going to get in trouble. And you're going to act right. So thank you guys so very much. Is there any more, Aisha, or was that it? Okay, that was it.
That was it. That's the last one.
Oh, so it wasn't that bad. Okay. So now we got to vote and decide which ones we want to send to the full board and which ones we know not. So if I can remember properly, let's vote on these three first. The ombudsman.
Well, two were withdrawn. Would you like for me to announce them and you can vote for me?
Yes.
So we have the two, to be clear, the two that were withdrawn, which your lunch and recess monitors was withdrawn. And Mrs. Adams Stafford withdrew her increased custodial staff budget amendment under with the conditions that the administration would bring back some information that was requested, correct? So what we have left are the technical support budget amendment that was brought forth by Mrs. Adams Stafford. We also have the parent to paraprofessional budget amendment that was brought forth by board member Adams Stafford and student board member Saran Ruiz. We also have the restorative practice training, expansion of restorative practice training brought forth by board member Adam Stafford. The ombudsperson budget amendment brought forth by board member Adam Stafford. And the alternative schools brought forth by board member Adam Stafford, as well as Mrs. Board member Ahmed. So those are the 5 that are left on the table.
Yes.
I wanted to, I'll withdraw the ombudsperson one, and Dr. Miller and board member Mickens Murray, if we could maybe discuss those topics at our upcoming retreat, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you, board member Mickens Murray.
Thank you so very much. So we just have 4. Whew, thank you, Lord. That we can vote on, refer to the full board. Okay, Ken, let me read my script so I'll get it right, you guys. All right. Aisha gave me a script. Here we go. May I have a motion? Okay, following discussion, a motion should be made by a committee member regarding the proposal to FY 2023. So at this time, I need a motion from one of the committee members to take the 4 recommendations that they would like to see for our budget amendments to be taken to the full board, for the full board to look into it and make a decision. So may I have a motion that we will bring them 4 items to the full board?
So moved.
Wait, I'm sorry, excuse me, right before you vote, just to be clear, so you will be accepting the recommendation of the CEO as well as the addition of these 4, or is it just the 4?
We only it's only the 4 we're talking about, right? It's more than 4?
Well, no, the full recommendation would be to accept, you want to accept what the CEO is doing as well as adding your 4 recommendations to amend the budget, to amend her recommendation.
So you want us, I'm sorry. So we're gonna accept the FY23 proposed operating budget, okay? As recommended by our CEO. Okay, so I got that. So we're gonna do that.
With the additions
With the addition of bringing to the full board for vote, the 4 recommendations that was recommended by board members to the full board. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
I think you got a few questions. Madam Queen. I'll second it.
There we go. Now I have a second. Now we can go to questions. Okay, so can we take Mr. Herman Smith first? I see you, board member Boozer struggle, but go ahead.
Just to clarify as we go through them, for the actual amendments, I'm hopeful that we can get to a dollar amount recommendation, and also just to clarify that anything that's added, I assume that the goal is that will be added as an additional request to county council for additional funding, or are there any anything that we would reduce?
It would be as an additional.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so very much. Board member Boozer struggle.
I was just gonna recommend that we take them one by one.
Okay. No problem with that. Do anybody else have a recommendation of going one by one?
I support that, the one by one.
Okay. Yes, board member Adams.
Yes, I think there are 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken. No, just so the ones that don't have a dollar amount, Mr. Herbstman, I think last year when I made budget amendments, I was advised not to put a dollar amount because that could box the administration in, like in terms of what they could do. Like, so giving sort of giving that opportunity for you all to find, I put in my initial email some areas of the budget that I thought maybe money could come from, but again, I'm not the financial, analyst in regards to this. So I guess in terms of how we would proceed there, I know last year with the budget amendment, when we wanted to go back with the dollar amount, the administration came back, after looking at what could be done. I guess I'm wondering, what would your advice be there?
So I think that first to the places, I know that you had included in the email where they could be done. We did respond to those, I believe, to you, and most of those places would be difficult to reduce without major changes. So I think we likely are looking, as Mr. Murray said, at an additional ask to council for these. In terms of the actual numbers, I think that we could come back with recommendations if these are passed of dollar amounts and programs. It is a very quick turnaround, as you know, but we could come back with that, at least a suggestion to the board of how this would be implemented. There are some of these that aren't very detailed in terms of exactly what you're looking for, but we could attempt to design that program.
Yeah, I think I could provide. I think the one you might be referring to is the parent to paraprofessional. So I could give some more specificity if it passes, and then you could kind of go from there. But I think it's more of an expansion of what we already offer, but targeting it towards parents in specific communities. And so I don't mind providing that additional detail if it passes this evening.
Okay, thank you. And I think the other ones, I believe, were pretty clear that we could design. The one question I did have is on the alternative school budget amendment. I know that you've spoken about restoring the current programs. And then I heard tonight, in the board action summary, it does mention 3 positions, having at least those 3 positions. But I think I had heard you say earlier tonight, Ms. Adam Stafford, that you were asking for one of those 3 positions.
Let me just make sure that I'm saying that properly. The alternative redesign. Sorry, give me a second. Okay, so I think from my understanding of the chart that was provided on the FAQs, there was a difference. There was a recommendation with the new design to give a licensed mental health school social worker to the new schools. I guess my request would just be, I believe that the schools already have a social worker. They may not have the clinical designation. Am I right in that? I think that's the difference between the two. And so I think, I also think that the schools, as they stand right now, they have an instructional specialist. Both Tall Oaks and CBC have an instructional specialist. So I'm just saying to maintain that. That is basically they have the same duties as the assistant principal. So I'm just saying to maintain that. And then, I mean, I guess, I think the social worker does the behavioral interventions at those sites now. And so it's really just the maintenance of what already exists. So nothing additional.
Understood. Thank you for that clarification.
I can make that clarification now.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so very much. Okay, so I'm lost, you guys. I have to be honest. So we just made a motion and it was already seconded.
So I can help out here, Madam Queen. So we've decided to take each budget amendment separately. So you just need motions for each of them, starting wherever you want, but I can make the first motion if it helps.
Yes, please.
To facilitate. Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the budget amendment for alternative schools, the alternative schools budget amendment.
Can I get a second? I'll second the motion. Okay, okay, so can we get a roll call, Ms. Berkeley, on this, please, so we can have it for the record?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Queen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
No.
Dr. Miller,
Abstain.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Thank you. 3 ayes, 1 nay, 1 abstention.
Thank you so very much. The next one.
Okay, Madam Queen, I'd like to make a motion to accept the budget amendment for technical support for special education.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you so very much, Mr. Murray. Okay, can we get a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Queen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Boozer Strother, Ms. Boozer Strother.
No.
I'm sorry, I still didn't hear you.
No.
No, thank you. Dr. Miller,
Abstain.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Thank you. 3 ayes, 1 nay, 1 abstention.
Okay, Madam Queen, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the budget amendment for Prince George's County Public Schools parent to paraprofessional program with the thought of allow administration to come back with that dollar value that Mr. Herbstman was just speaking of.
I'll second that one. Can we call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Queen,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Struther,
No.
Dr. Miller,
No.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Thank you. 3 ayes, 2 nays.
Which one didn't I do? Oh, restorative practices. Okay. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the budget amendment for restorative practices.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you repeat the motion, please?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to accept the budget amendment for restorative practices. Expansion of restorative practices training in Prince George County Public Schools.
Roll call. Ms. Queen,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mrs. Boozer Struther.
No,
Was that a nay, ma'am?
that's a no.
Thank you. Dr. Miller,
Abstain.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Thank you. 3 ayes, 1 nay, 1 abstention.
Ooh, thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, everyone, for allowing me to come and present these amendments. And I wanted to ask Mr. Hertzman, maybe if I can connect with you afterwards to just make sure that I clarified, just what we discussed in terms of the amounts and what was in the amendment.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you so very much. Let's see, we got to 3.2. Let's see. Get the motion, let's go to page 3.
You have one question, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, my Zoom done disappeared. Let me bring it back up.
Can I clarify, are we voting on the CEO's budget? What was?
So I think we do need to vote on that, Madam Queen, since we separated it into separate motions and separated the CEO's budget out of that. I think Board Member Boozer Struther is correct in that.
Okay. And would you like to make a motion, Board Member Boozer Struther?
Yeah, I make a motion to accept the CEO's proposed budget.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. Can we get a second? I'll second. Okay. Dr. Miller, second. All in favor, say aye. We want roll
Aye.
call.
Do roll call.
Then do roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Queen,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Struther,
Yes.
Dr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Thank you all so very much. There we go. We did it. Thank you again for reminding me, Board Member Boozer Struther. See, teamwork. Okay. I'm sorry, my dog I'm trying to bite me. He must be hungry. Okay, let's move forward now. 3.3 CIP moments with the summer projects. Our COO, Mr. Fawcett, you got the floor.
Good evening, Board Member Queen and board members. As discussed in our pre-BAFA meeting, we were asked to talk about summer projects through capital programs and our building services department. I may have spoken a little prematurely because although I knew we were putting together that list, the list that we provided the Board of Education is a projected list. It is not the final list. That list will come somewhere around the end of April, at the beginning of May. Can I share? Actually, let me see. All right. Everyone see that? Is it big enough? Okay, so pretty much the projected total number of summer projects and phase summer projects is 142. The phase project is 12. That's typically projects that have already started or will start in the summer, but will not be completed by the summer. So the number of 142 of those projects that we attempt to complete during the 3 months when students are not in school. This is something that we do every summer. A lot of these are smaller projects, anything from small AC upgrades to gym renovations, parking lots, playgrounds, some of the smaller projects that we know that we can definitely get in before school starts, or if they happen not to finish at the beginning of school, that they can be finished with minimal impact to the instructional process. A lot of things go into getting some of the projects ready to get started, which is why this is a preliminary list and projected list, because a lot of things depending on procurement. Once not that a lot of these are not already procured, but once totally procured, the timeline that the contractor may give us. So this is why this list can be is right now is a projected list. There are also other things that we take into account. That's summer use of buildings. And sometimes we must delay projects to the following summer because there could be an important summer program that must take place in the building where we were attempting to do work. So as you scroll through this list, we've given you a list of pretty much every project that is projected. These are the comprehensive projects. When you scroll down, these are the summer only projects, as I spoke about, those projects which we hope can be completed once school gets out and prior to school beginning. We will come back and provide a final list to the board somewhere around the end of April, beginning of May. At that time, we will also include, as we do in our CIP updates to the board, the district, so that the board members will know what projects are going within that district. So that's my short update on summer construction projects for FY22, which will take place this summer or be phased in this summer. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. I think it's important that we give an update to the board members to let them know what projects are going on in their district so they can get it out to keep the community informed by us being very transparent. I think that's very important. That's what our constituents and the stakeholders expect us to do. So please just make sure that we are letting each and every board members know what's going on in their area so they can get the word out to the community. Does any of the other board members have any questions or concerns about the projects? I guess they don't have any questions or concerns.
Yes, sorry, Madam Queen, no questions or concerns, but thank you, Dr. Fawcett, for this breakdown and itemized view of what's happening. So I just want to say thanks for that.
Well, thank you, board member.
All right, well, thank you so very much. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Okay, so we just moving right along. Where we at?
I have one more part, and that's Mr. Washington. The board also asked for us to provide a consistent way to update the board on and the public on our blueprint schools project. So Mr. Washington is here to give an update on how we're currently giving updates and how we can support the board in that information in the future.
So very important. What's going on, Mr. Washington?
Oh, nothing much. It's a pleasure to be here. To start with, in terms of updates, we provide to everyone that signed up for the Blueprint listserv newsletters at the beginning of every month on construction activities on all 6 sites, as well as any community investment and design updates. Additionally, each quarter, we prepare a quarterly document that's publicly available that lays out the activities as well as any high-level issues and updates related to all 6 schools. We have begun and have sent out postcards to 3 communities, and we'll be doing door hangers for 3 other communities to expand the number of folks that have signed up for updates. Right now, I think our list is only around 600 people. We suspect that there are quite a few more people surrounding these schools that would like to be updated. And we're moving to a SMS text message system as we move into more civil work in public right-of-ways to provide updates as promptly as we can in terms of deliveries, impacts on traffic, as well as pertinent, significant, critical milestones to keep the public informed if there are any impacts to their daily transit routines or anything that can impact them in a negative way. And so those are a few of the ways. Welcome any updates. We have started to reach out, and I've been asked to speak at community groups. Board Member Queen, we spoke at a couple last year. If there are any community groups or neighborhood meetings or anything of that sort that you believe that we need to update, please let me know. We can get those scheduled and make ourselves available. As it relates to the current status of the schools, we are currently at 95% design. We are finishing up the design packages of all 6 schools, including finalizing the final furniture, fixtures, and equipment packages for all 6 schools. As everyone hopefully is aware, we've mobilized on all 6 schools. Certain schools have moved ahead in terms of steel erection. We expect most of the buildings to be topped out, fully enclosed by early May. And we are finally and expecting within the next week building permits for all 6 schools. We were able to pull out steel erection permits, and that's why you've been seeing steel go up. But we will have full building permits that will allow for direct aggressive movement on the sites from a construction standpoint as the builder sees fit. So that's where we are as it relates to design. Once that is done, we're going to have final project planning committees meetings with each school to show the final school, the layout, color scheme, all of the furniture, and to show what will be delivered by mid-July, summer 2023. The schools are still on time. The developer has done a very good job of getting ahead of COVID-related impacts thus far. They are seeing stresses and impacts related to pricing that a lot of folks are, but it hasn't impacted the supply, rather our critical path yet. They are still, it's fingers crossed, toes crossed, and everything that we get stuff on time. But that's exciting news, is that we haven't seen any of the significant delays that we've heard about in other projects around the region anyway. The real, as it relates to more communication or community impact, the final piece would be 2 communities are getting ready to have an opportunity to vote on the new names. Adelphi Area Middle School and the Southern K-8 Academy school naming committees have created final lists. Those lists will be shared in those communities through various channels, including school max, elected officials listservs, community listservs, to take a final vote. Upon that vote, the school naming committees will make their recommendation to Dr. Golson, who will present that recommendation to the board for ratification. We expect that to take place within the next 2 months. We are excited that this was a community process, and we are looking forward to what the community decides the names of those 2 new schools will be. And with that, that's where we are really with phase 1. Phase 2, we've just started. We've had 2 task force meetings. We have, and just so everybody's clear, phase 2 is the state funded P3. We've had 2 task force meetings to date. We have really laid out school criteria, what is going to be guiding this committee as they determine the next set of schools. And so we have started that process, addressing and looking at affordability will be the next phase, really, and what that package will look like. We have a report due, I believe, the beginning of March, per the council resolution, to provide an update to the council on the work thus far. And so that's my report of where we are, and open to address any questions if there are any.
Thank you so very much for your report, Mr. Washington. It's truly appreciated. You said that, and I know because I get one, but just so everyone else know who's listening to it, but how do people sign up to get a copy of that quarterly report?
Yeah, so we started out with, I don't know if you ever remember back this summer, those yard signs and folks use QR codes. What we've done now is we actually geolocated within a mile of every school. So certain schools, Southern K-8, I believe, Kenmore, and I believe Drew Freeman, they all received postcards, which were just, please sign up. And now the other 3 school sites, just in terms of creating some engagement, we actually have door hangers. And so they should be delivered within the next week. And we will actually be going around to all of the surrounding community to put door hangers up for people to sign up. The idea is there are folks that don't spend all day on computers. And so that's why we want to make sure that we have a way of getting to people through text and other mediums to update them on what's going on. Additionally, they can go to the project website, which has every document that's been released, every report that's been released, as well as every presentation that we've done to date. It's PGCPS blueprintschools.com. And so, but, we want to make sure that as if you want to know about it, we find a way to get it to you. And so we are going to continue really trying to think about ways of engaging the community.
And is it broken into different languages like English and Spanish?
Yes. So everything on the website is translated or has been sent to translation services to be translated to Spanish. I believe there are a couple of school communities where we actually translate to French, I believe, because there's a fairly strong immigrant population in a couple of communities. And that's really been helped by Dr. Love and her team. They've let us know what we need to and how we need to translate information to get it out to the public.
Thank you so very much. I see board member Pam has a question.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Mr. Washington, I just wanted to thank you for elevating communications through this process. And I think through the 6 middle schools and community relations, we're also learning a lot for all of our other traditional builds and the level of effort that we should be putting into communicating with the immediate neighbors and the broader community. I just wanted to suggest utilizing, I guess really to say continue utilizing or targeting messaging that the that the city of Hyattsville could put out on behalf of PGCPS, kind of the official statements that entities like cities can use. I think most of the other schools are represented by counties, their county council members. So, more requests for those newsletters. I know that the District 2 County Council newsletter reaches, a lot of constituents for Adelphi Middle and Hyattsville. So just wanted to add that to the mix and just again, thank you for the door-to-door plan. I think there are things that the school system does that warrant that level of engagement, and I'm happy to support that as well. Thank you.
We've heard from quite a few folks about the need to reach out and touch folks outside of the immediate school community. And so, but thank you. And I definitely know, and we've reached out, another point, we've reached out actually to the county executives, public engagement, I think it's public engagement or public outreach team, around making sure that we provide links to the information that we provide that goes out countywide. And I believe they can also target it per zip code. And so we've reached out in that way as well.
Thank you so very much. Did anyone else have any comments, questions, concerns? But if not, we want to thank you so very much. I enjoy my newsletters when I get it. I get mine by email, but to look at the 6 schools and see the different tiers and the level of process, and even to see, you know, what's coming next. So we do thank you for that communication of letting us know what's going on, and I truly appreciate it.
Well, thank you all. And as we move forward and the schools move into further development, I am sure there'll be opportunities to take some tours of the schools to look at some of the progress. Once we get to that point, I will make sure that we extend the invitation out if you so choose to take us up on it.
I thank you. I can't wait till all this dust stop.
I hear you. I hear you. So. But,
and anybody who live near school that's been done, you understand the trucks and all the dust and the dirt and getting all on your cars and your trucks. So they definitely understand it. But
well, my message to all of them has been very clear, is that we appreciate it, but we want you all to finish as quickly as possible and on time, and to get in and out, because it's an inconvenience, and we recognize that. And I think that's another reason why we felt, and we have to make sure that we communicate clearly, and so folks know that we understand the impact, and we want to do all we can to get this done.
Thank you so very much. And like I tell my community, some inconveniences are necessary, and this is a necessary. We've been waiting to get schools built in our community. Our scholars deserve these schools to be built. It's not about us or our clean cars. It ain't about the car. Stop washing it. But it's about making sure that my kids in the neighborhood have good schools to go to. So we thank you for that, and I truly appreciate it.
Thank you all, and have a great night.
Okay, you do the same. You do the same. Okay, so let's see. What up? Log me out the system, but I think what was next was for the good of the order, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so for the good of the order, did anybody have anything for the good of the order?
Mine is quick. I think we had a really good and productive budget series of budget work sessions, as well as the public really showed out for our budget public hearings as well. So I just wanted to commend them for showing up and making their comments and concern known. And then I think, again, we had a great series. So that was my for the good of the order.
All right, and you're so right. We do thank the public for coming out, because I think that is so important that people stand up and speak out and help move the agenda forward in your community. So you are right, Mr. Vice Chair. It was a good budget work session, and thank each of our board members also who were there. I think we had good attendance at most of our budget work session, where almost all of our board members were there, and I think that's important too, to let the community know that we are here and we are listening. For the good of the order, I just wanted to let y'all know today, for the good of the order, I was going to officially resign, and that was because of the law. That is, I am going to run for another position, that I had to resign and file for office by the 22nd of February. But because of a court order, it has been extended to March the 22nd. I'm just going to finish out this budget a little while longer. So I am not officially going to resign today. I'm not going to stay much longer, but I will finish out my commitment a little bit longer. So I will not be officially resigning today. I really was going to officially resign today, but for some reason, somebody higher decided that they wanted me to stay a little longer. They didn't want me to leave, y'all. And I've been getting so many emails and texts and people saying, you don't have to go, don't resign, you don't have to go, you know. No, I don't have to go, but I am going. So, but I will finish my commitment as long as possible. I will continue to serve. And just remember, when I do decide to go, I will just send everybody a little letter and let you know, and I will still serve. I will continue to serve. Service doesn't start because I'm a board member. I will continue to serve even when I'm out as a parent or a regular community member. I will still serve. I will still be out here speaking up and speaking out. Won't I, Mr. Coleman? Dr. Coleman.
Absolutely.
That does not stop me. So thank you guys so very much. It was a productive meeting. Even with all the budget changes, it's gonna definitely have to go to our full board, and decisions would have to be made. But we did do what we were supposed to do as the budget. And again, I want to thank each and every one of my committee members for your commitment to being fiscal responsible over the budget, but not just that, to making sure that we are taking everything that every stakeholder has said over these last meetings, that they took the time and they came out and they spoke on things that they requested, and letting them know that we heard them and we are concerned. We do know that it is a deficit. We do know that we have to find ways to move some money around, but we will do everything that we can that is possible, because it may not be possible, but we will try to do everything that we can possible to do what we can do to make sure that our scholars have everything they need to succeed right here at Prince George's County Public School. So again, I want to say thank you for that. And just remind you that the full Board of Education will convene on Thursday, February the 24th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in person at the SASA Administration Building in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. The board will review and take actions on the recommendations that was moved forward today from this committee regarding the FY 2023 proposed operating budget, including the CEO's recommendation. The next ABAFA committee meeting will be on March the 16th, 2022 at 5 p.m. And at this time, does anybody have any closing remarks? If not, I'm gonna go ahead and say thank you to everyone. This was a great meeting. Thank you for your time. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Okay, well, all in favor, say aye.
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 And we adjourn. So thank you all, and everybody have a good night.
Good night.